We're at 3 chapters now for Red Hood, and I'm glad that the reception, at least so far, seems to be fairly positive. People like the designs and the Brothers Grimm kind of like Van Helsing setting of the world, and all of the different monsters and everything just that's going to be involved. So at least so far, I assume that there's going to be people with somewhat powers, probably kind of like were people, like guys who have a level of kind of like mutation or something to be like one of the monsters. I would guess. I feel like that's just like the only way, at least from this series, you could have powers besides maybe somebody with magic. But this world's magic seems way more kind of like stemmed in old style witchery. Like it's gonna be way more set into specifically like the poster set of witches. And granted, like the werewolves are different in this. But it's not like a ton. So I would assume the witches are gonna be relatively close to how they're depicted in like folklore and stuff, but they're gonna be a little bit different just based off of the whatever the mangaka wants to do. Either way, the whole thing outside of that, like they have the tools, I think are really cool, and then whatever's going on with the axe that Velou got from the mayor, because there's definitely something significant about that. I'm guessing like the material that was made with it, or the material it's made of has some form of special properties that does extra stuff to werewolves or monsters in general. But we did see a lot of just general detective work, like a lot of work from Grimm, just showing her skills as a huntress and somebody like in this business, because she's able to find the mayor's bones when they're at the old lady werewolf's house. And this is really weird because like the first 3 chapters have all run back to back, just as like something to a little bit compared to, not the same thing. I remember Radiant's first anime episode is only part of chapter 1. They didn't do that thing where they want to kind of like space it out so they can fit it all into one episode. It's like 2.5 episodes is chapter 1, so it's really weird. Whereas, like, if that was to happen with Red Hood, at least right now, it would feel normal because it's actually set in the story. Like, these are back-to-back events. Kill the old lady, find the bones of the mayor, realize, like, she didn't have any teeth, but there's teeth marks on these bones, and there's 2 different sets. Okay, there's 2 more werewolves. Like, there's a lot more fast motion that seems like it actually is designed to be there rather than just kind of done there by somebody else's choice. But they're doing their thing, going through their different kind of setup, and there's some really interesting dialogue between Grimm and Velou in this chapter. And we're so early in the series that we don't have any real idea how things would work out in the long run. We're only 3 chapters in, so we don't know of like what like a major bad guy, like how does this mangaka like do major bad guys, or like what are other characters in the Hunters Guild and stuff gonna be like, and like how the setup of the world is. Do they have like a fair system throughout like the people? Are they gonna have like a bunch of corrupt governments and stuff and going through like cities where they're like people are really terrible? Because at least from so far, it's set up that the werewolves are absolute, like they just seem to be monsters. There's nothing that's like, okay, it's a perspective thing. They've shown that this is just an irredeemable creature. The species is just beyond saving, so you have to pretty much just eradicate them. And Velou had a chapter, or a moment in this chapter about that, when we see the werewolves, and they're kind of just generally communicating with each other. I say generally, but I guess it's generally for them. Like there's a moment where Velou is getting ready to go after the werewolf that he already kind of confronted in the last chapter, and the dude just decides he's gonna reveal he's a werewolf. He is a definite jobber. Like this dude is just telling him like all this information because he's like, this doesn't matter. I'm gonna get away. You guys can't be. This guy is like a 1930s cartoon villain getting ready to tie somebody to some railroad tracks. This is not somebody that is designed to be like a big villain. This is like, yeah, this guy's going to be around for 5 minutes, so I'm going to use him for exposition and information, kind of just dumps in the chapter. And Velou, it's like he was looking pretty good. Like he was surviving. He's not like wrecking this guy, but he's not getting like trashed beyond compare. He's putting up a fair fight and doing what he can with what skills he has, and I think that's been pretty cool. And then the stuff with the werewolf, like how he regenerates, is really sick. I like that there's like this weird power that they learn to exploit with their with their general just species. But what I was talking about earlier, is Velou. Velou is going to be a big determining factor for the direction of the series, and it's just based off of this chapter alone. You can really tell, because there's the stuff in there about like being a hunter or being a hero, and Velou cared about, not like cared, but he was like upset over the werewolf attacking his brother, like killing somebody on his own side, killing an ally, which is understandable. Obviously, I'm sure most people don't like guys team killing, especially when they're supposed to be brothers and stuff. It just hits like to a more like at your core kind of dislike when it comes down to just like regular people at like a grounded human level. I would assume at least most people don't like team killing. Either way, there's some stuff from Grimm, and she's saying how like you can't really think of it like you're not a hero, you're not gonna be able to save them, you can't save everybody, you can't do everything. The whole thing about the hunters is you are like you aren't a super, you're not out trying to like save everybody and do these amazing things. You're a hunter. You are there to eradicate the prey. Like that is your overall purpose. Like your main focus above all else should be getting the job done. And Velou, just based off of like, you know, he's got the shonen main character in this, but at the same time he's at a spot where we don't really know enough about him, so we don't know what he's gonna do. And it could be that he, you know, decides to kind of like keep the shonen main character route. He's going to, you know, want to do better things, which is understandable. I feel like most people would, you know, in this situation, would want to direct their, you know, whatever their skills to help people if they could. But there's obviously the realization is like, is he going to be a character that has to realize like, I can't do everything, but what I can do is just kind of get rid of him. Kind of like the Goblin Slayer, I think is like the difference is like that he could go down that route where he still does good things, but eradication of the enemy is like paramount to everything going on. And we do see some cool usage of more tools in this chapter. Like Grimm has like she throws like these shells that pretty much are like smoke grenades and like tear gas grenades that like messes with the werewolf. And they're getting ready to do like all their planning stuff. Because Velou looks mad. He was very unhappy when he saw that werewolf crush his brother's heart. And I can understand that. Again, talked about that, team killing and stuff. The whole like ripping into his body to get bigger and gain on that regeneration power was really cool. I feel like that's one of those things that is a sign that like this is going to be a little bit horror-ish. I don't think it's going to be like, you know, Saw and freaking Friday the 13th, Nightmare on Elm Street kind of stuff. I think it's going to be, you know, for shonen. Phantom Seer had that as well. Like, you know, it was a shonen, but it did have a little bit of a creepiness aspect to it. I think with the monster designs and stuff like this, where it could have werewolves essentially, because like if you imagine it, say like you're up against like 5 werewolves in this series and they all do that, at one point you would just see like 5 of these big creepy wolf creatures start ripping apart their own body and then getting bigger. Like that's a nightmare fuel kind of type of power up. I thought that was really cool. But they're just doing their thing. Velou is getting prepped. I think that like the next chapter is where we're gonna get like a defining area for his character, whether or not he's going to be more, like I said, it's simple, more heroic or more like a hunter. Is he more for helping people, or is he more for getting the job done? And we'll have to see at least a glimmer of that, I think, in the next chapter. I feel like Velou's gonna, you know, obviously want to help the people. So how he does everything in the next chapter, I feel like this next chapter is going to be a really important early game chapter. Just based off that, this is the position that Velou is in, the position where they're at right now. Because we also have the whole fact that Velou doesn't want to leave the hamlet. So we still have the whole aspect of like, is he going to leave? Is he going to stay here? And like that's going to be a plot twist in itself, or like what reason is he gonna show up for him to want to leave? There's a lot of questions. But anyway, other than that, comment below. Tell me your thoughts about this series and how you thought things went in this chapter. It was a really fast read because I think that the takeaways were way more towards like a couple core areas and obviously the display of werewolves. I think the werewolf, I think just him like tearing into his body was like one of the big events of the chapter. It was supposed to be one of those ones that just kind of like gives you a really strong glimpse at what a werewolf is like in this series. But anyway, other than that, they'll comment below. Thumbs up if you do, like, but subscribe and check out my other videos. But in that, appreciate everybody's already subscribed. Thank you all for listening. Bye.